Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a journal with me, and today's journal with me is actually the last journal with me in this current journal that I'm showing. So this is the last page in the journal to fill, and very soon, probably my next upcoming video will be a flip through of this particular journal. So on these pages I have some Polaroid pictures from a recent festival that we went to, like a little local festival where there was some market stalls and some rides and some food trucks. And I think the highlight of the night was the man who was making bubbles, and he was just making all of these really like weird and wonderful shaped and sized bubbles, which just looked so pretty floating through the night sky. And I think my kids enjoyed that part the most as well out of the entire night. So I am going to be documenting this particular night with the Polaroid pictures. I don't have any other ephemera, but I'm going to use my paints and I'm going to actually paint the bubbles in the sky across the page. So before I begin painting, I want to attach all of my pieces down on the page, and then I can kind of fill in behind and around that with the paint. So I'm attaching those Polaroid pictures with my double-sided tape, and then I also have a couple of various little labels that I've cut out. These little labels that you see on the page are from the old carousel paper collection. So I picked this pink one with some stars around it, and then this bright blue one. And what I wanted to do on this page was I wanted to try and incorporate some bright colors with the labels and the extra bits and pieces that I add to the page, because I felt like that was going to contrast really nicely with the darker painting that I'm going to add. So because we went at nighttime, I plan on painting a black sky with bubbles across the sky. So I wanted to also incorporate some really bright and fun colors that help to bring in that carnival or fair theme. So whilst I'm journaling, I just wanted to take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, Craftsy. Craftsy is an amazing online community and resource for all things creative. It's where crafters and DIY enthusiasts come together to find and share creative inspiration, to learn new skills, and to try new projects. Craftsy offers over 2,000 classes in more than 20 different popular categories like drawing, painting, knitting, quilting, journaling, embroidery, paper crafts, and so many more. I've recently been taking some classes that explain different processes and ways to illustrate children's picture books. The classes on Craftsy are created by experts in their field, and I really like the way that the lessons are broken down into steps to make learning new processes and ideas really easy and self-paced. If you're a bit of a creative person like me, you'll definitely be able to find and enjoy a ton of new projects and inspiration on Craftsy. So the first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the video description will get a full year of premium membership to Craftsy for only $1.49. This offer is valid for all new members of Craftsy. Thank you again so much to Craftsy for sponsoring today's video. So back to my journal page as I begin attaching everything to the page. I'm also using a bunch of these tickets from this little plastic pocket full of tickets. This is an item from the washi tape shop quite a while ago. I don't think they have this product anymore, sadly, because I think it was like one of their best products, but it's just a pocket full of like vintage remake tickets. Some of them are better quality than others, to be fair. Some of them are really crisp and some of them are less crisp, I guess, just because they are remakes of real vintage tickets. So I went through all the tickets and I put out some of my favorites, and you see me here just playing around with different layout ideas of where I'm going to attach the tickets. So basically I'm just using the tickets as little fun decorative elements to the page, another way to add in a bunch more color to this page and to have those pop off the page, because again, once I add in that black paint, these colorful elements are going to stand out heaps more. So I'm just laying these around the page to get an idea of where they look the best, and I felt like most of these looked best kind of clustered up with each other or with the photos and the labels that I attached to the page. So I'm kind of using these to help to bring those photos out and to kind of frame those photos and create little clusters on the page that I can then paint around. So I sped this up a little bit whilst I was rearranging the pieces on the page, because it took me a little while to just figure out the best way to fit everything. I wanted the page to look interesting and bright, and I wanted these little ticket pieces to look like little bits of ephemera, and I also wanted them to just decorate the page and bring colour into the page. So that's what I'm trying to do, and I'm also trying to think ahead to where I'm going to do my written journaling later on. I didn't have a ton of written journaling to do, so I knew that I didn't need to leave myself that much space. So I'm also thinking that I'm going to write on top of the blank labels, but that is something that I'm keeping in mind as I am putting the page together. So now I've just taken my Bostik glue stick and I'm just gluing down most of those tickets with the glue stick, and I'm just trying to layer them up the way that I set them out on the page. You'll see that I'm also lifting up the edges of some of the Polaroid pictures and labels to tuck those ticket pieces under just slightly, because I want to give these little clusters a bit of a layered look and make the page look a little bit more dimensional. If any of the tickets that I attached was overhanging the page, I'll just take my scissors and trim off whatever was overhanging. I also left off just one last little label, this little red blank label, because I thought I would wait to attach this until after I've painted the page so that I could add, again, a bit of a different type of layering or dimension to the page. So here's a quick little video of the bubbles in the sky, which really doesn't do justice to how pretty it looked, but that's what I'm going to try and recreate for this page. So I am first starting with some black paint, and I'm using my gouache paint set, and I'm just going to paint in like a block color of black across the page, and then this is where I'm going to add my bubbles to afterward. So I am just painting in all of the little blank spaces on the page, and I'm kind of doing this in like a bit of an irregular shape. So for example, the black doesn't continue onto the next page seamlessly. There's actually a little bit of a gap, and there's some kind of weird shapes around the outside of the black. I don't know how to describe it, but I haven't filled out the page all the way to the edges. So those black block areas are a little bit random and imperfect. Once I filled in most of the area with black paint, I went to the right side of the page. There's this little corner with some blank space that I can paint on, and I thought instead of filling that with bubbles also, I'm going to paint some little tents. And so I kind of pulled these more from my mind than from the actual event. So at this event, there was some market stalls, and the tents certainly didn't look like this. But again, I wanted to make my page feel really colorful and kind of like a bit whimsical. So I'm also painting this like circus tent style of tent in various bright colors. So once I painted a couple of simple little circus tents in the corner of the page, I'm just again going in with the black paint, and I'm just filling in around those to make them look like they are a part of the sky, like the sky blends into those tents. So those tents are a part of the event, if that makes sense. So once I have this, I'm going to start painting some bubbles. And what I did was I went around my house and I found these little pieces that I could use to stamp circular shapes for the bubbles, because bubbles are typically quite perfectly circle, and so I knew that I would struggle to paint lots and lots of perfect circles, and so to make my life so much easier, I wanted to find something I could use to stamp. And so I'm using this little lid from a spray bottle, and I just kind of practiced the technique, and I realized pretty early on this wasn't going to give me a perfect circle every single time, but I thought that was perfectly fine, because bubbles always look a little bit different to each other. So I stamped multiple of the same size, and then I'm also using this little purple game piece from just one of my kids' board games, and that worked really well as well. I wanted to have a different variety of bubble sizes to paint across the page. And then once I had these two stamped, I wanted to bring in some smaller sizes as well. So I started to look again for some more things that I could use. And I ended up finding this little Gorilla Glue super glue, and I thought the circle on the end of that could work quite well, which it did work quite well. And then I also, to bring in some really small bubbles, I found this little circle shape on the end of my white pen, which also worked pretty well. So again, all of these circles turn out a little bit different to each other. Some came out really crisp, some came out almost barely there or a little bit spotty, but I think by the time you add in those other like details to the bubbles, it looks really good. So I'm taking a really small paintbrush and I'm using a really light pink, and I'm just painting in some little shine marks on these bubbles. So some little like reflective parts of the bubbles. So just a couple of simple little lines around each bubble in sort of a circular shape. And I'm making this look a little bit different on each bubble because, again, different bits of light are hitting the bubbles, and so they all look a little bit different to each other. And then once I added the pink, I also went in with a little bit of light blue, and I just added like some little highlights with light blue in the same way. So just kind of going around where I've already painted with the pink and just painting in some of those areas with little spots of blue, because usually when you look at a bubble in the sky, it's reflecting like pinks and purples and blues. So I wanted to capture that shiny look of the bubbles. And then the last step was to take some white paint and to add again some more little highlights. So these are like the final highlights on top of the highlights that I just painted. So little dots and little lines on top, which just make the bubbles look more shiny and more 3D. So whenever I am painting in my journal, I am not trying to create a work of art. I'm not taking it very seriously, and I'm not worried too much about the actual painting being amazing. I'm not trying too hard to practice anything in particular. All I'm trying to do is to recreate a memory the way that I see it in my mind. And so this can be really fun and intuitive because, like I said with the tents, I'm not painting always from what I see. I'm not painting tents that were actually there. I'm just using sort of a bit of reality with a bit of imagination to make a page look a bit whimsical and to bring in like magical little elements that help to prompt part of my memory. So the bubble imagery and the tents together bring me back to this moment, if that makes sense. And that's what I'm trying to do when I'm painting in my journal. So once I was finished with the bubbles, I also just went in with more white paint and I just did these little tiny dots around the bubble shape. And I feel like this just helps to represent smaller bubbles and layers of bubbles floating across the sky, and it can also represent like bubbles popping in the sky, you know, when they pop in the sky and you can see little speckles in the sky. That's what those dots are. And then I also used white paint on the tents to create a bit of a striped look, and then I went back in with those same colors that I used to again create a bit of a striped look. Once my painting was dry, I added in my written journaling, which you can see here, and then the last step was to add some stickers. So I pulled out some of my favorite stickers, and I also attached that red label that I was saving to the end. I ended up putting it up the top left side there. Then for stickers, I wanted to try and pick little stickers that would pop off the page and that would complement what's already there, and I felt like some metallic stickers would work well. So I had these little star stickers which are gold, which I felt like added a bit of shine and a bit of magic to the page. And then I also have some tiny word stickers which I placed around the Polaroid pictures, and then just some other little puffy stickers and little icon stickers. And then I went through and found some more gold stickers like little hearts and stars, which again I just added around the page just to add a little bit of sparkle and shine and dimension to the page. And I think those tiny little elements and details really bring the page together. Lastly, I added a few little bits of clear tape just to help stick things down. And this is the finished spread. So again, this is the last spread in my journal. My journal is completely full, which is exciting. It's always exciting when you finish a journal. And so now I need to make myself another journal, which I don't know when I'm going to find the time to do that. But I need to make myself a new journal so I can continue journaling in this way because I have been loving it so much. And I am going to be filming a flip through of this completed journal I would say next week, early next week. And I can't wait to show you all the pages in here because I think this is possibly my favorite journal that I have completed ever. So I hope you enjoyed this journal with me. I have plenty of other journal with me videos on my channel in a playlist if you would like to see more just like this. Again, a special thanks to Craftsy for sponsoring today's video. Make sure you check out the description down below for their offer as well. I will see you again very soon in my next video.